You're listening to Grain of Salt, a podcast hosted by Donnie and Krista Glennie-Seishu, covering the Buffalo Niagara region's food and drink scene. Today's episode features Donnie talking to Allison, Emily, and Tori from BreadHive, a local cooperative bakery that opened earlier this year. They talk about starting a business, how they fell in love with baking bread, some necessary shout-outs, and what it's like to go viral on the internet.
So, since we have like a couple people here today, like normally if it's like a one-on-one thing, it's super easy to tell who's me and who's the other person. Would you guys mind like just saying like who you are and what? Do you have like individual roles? I guess with BreadHive.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we could give a rundown of that.
Yeah.
I'll start because I'm talking. I'm Allison Ewing. I'm from BreadHive. And I am primarily the head baker, and I also do the social media.
That's clutch.
Yeah, it's a good gig. I'm one of the 3 founders. The other 2 are here.
Yes.
I guess I'm number 2, which is not the operative number for me. But my name is Emily Stewart, and I mostly handle our business, our finances, and relationship building with new contracts on the wholesale side.
Nice.
I'm Tori Cooper. I'm the third part of the trifecta, and I manage the Crust Belt, our subscription program. I honcho development around bagels and granola, nice. And I do a lot of the office administration.
Oh, fun.
Which I actually love so much.
Which we also love that she loves.
I was going to say.
I can speak more for myself and say that I'm incapable of doing those things without really, really, really having it be a desperate case. So it's really good that Tori is good at it and loves it.
Yeah.
I handle all checklists and tiny papers.
Mm-hmm.
As an accountant, I really appreciate that.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I am also one of those people.
Nice.
Do you guys find that like each of you have like a certain personality trait that fits like the trifecta, if you will, that everybody has like a little something different that they bring to those roles?
Yeah, we were talking before we turned the mics on about how Tori is our designated person to go on camera. Because she's a performer by prior education and lifestyle. She was a mime. She was an actual mime.
Really?
It's true.
I'm also trained in stage combat.
Okay.
She does a wicked windmill when it comes to miming.
It's classical French technique.
Wow.
This is a podcast, though, so
you can't see it.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
we'll have like a supplementary like video.
yeah. Oh
portion
no,
of this.
you should like link to a GIF.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can.
Please send me those gifts.
We'll find you one.
Yeah. It's intense.
So that's.
Yeah, but so everyone kind of like fits into what like a natural role for themselves, I guess.
Yeah, I think we reflect on that quite a bit just because I don't think we knew that going into it, but it sort of established itself and like our gifts and talents have sort of come out. Like Allison's genius on social media. Yeah. I mean, she just like owns it, and Tori and I are like, yeah, she owns it. I was like, sweet.
Do all that Twitter stuff.
You Instagram that bagel.
Instagram the hell out of it.
So, speaking of, okay, I will do like a whole story, but like let's start with the BuzzFeed Cheeto bagel because that's like fresh in everyone's mind right now.
Well, it's
so that was crazy, right? Like,
super crazy.
Yes.
It was on BuzzFeed for people who don't know. Yeah, I mean that's like a ridiculous thing. Like
it was also on ABC News in Philadelphia,
Uh-huh.
as well as in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And Elite Daily picked it up. It was we literally sat there in the bakery. I mean, while doing a million other things, but like on Twitter, just listening to go bloop 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 bloop. Be like, guys. Emily left the bakery, crossed the street, came bolting, running at top speed, explodes into the bakery like, guys, I just got an email from Good Morning America. I I was like, wait, I gotta text my mom.
Which is sort of surreal when you're standing on the corner of Baines and Auburn in the middle of Buffalo.
Yeah,
like, it's unusual.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were able to feel somewhat famous for like a day, and we sold about 30 bagels, and then it went away. So it's funny because like, I mean, more people have heard of us since then, and they've come and tried our stuff. But it's also like people are like, "Did you sell like a zillion Cheeto bagels?" We're like, "No, no."
People from Philadelphia weren't trying to have them flown in. Or anything.
Well,
They were, but honestly, we're just not into it. It's like we could fly you some bagels, or you could just come to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And try one of the 30 Cheeto bagels that's been sold. From
yeah,
our
or
Could be
you
31.
could hunt down whatever artisan bakery is in your town, and see
Ask
if
them to make a Cheeto bagel?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they'd love that. I mean, the only reason we made it is because we have this 10-year-old neighbor who hangs out in our bakery who has sort of earned the right to hang around with us
Nice.
over the months, and we're sort of her after-school program at this point.
That's a good way to think of it.
And she'll, sometimes before school, actually, now she's figured out that we're there.
I also gave her chocolate at 7 a.m. the other day.
I did?
I felt so sorry for her teachers.
It was great because it was one of those Dove chocolates with the really sentimental sayings in it, and it said, pause and enjoy the moment. And she read that, and then she closed her eyes and just stood there, and then she opened them, and she's like, I paused, and I enjoyed the moment. So that's why she gets to stick around, is because she's awesome.
Oh,
but she's
shit,
also
that's
just
amazing.
she's way more street smart than any of us. So she'll just be like, but she's a kid. So she was talking about baby dolls the other day, and she's like, I love baby dolls. Baby dolls are the joint. And we're just like, what? So when she was eating her Flaming Hot Cheetos, and she's like, you guys should put these on a bagel. And usually we're like, yeah, no. And I was like, I love those.
And so literally we took her bag of Cheetos and crushed them up. And the next day we're like, Cheeto bagel. And Allison put it on Twitter.
And there was enough of a what that I was like, ooh, let's make more for Friday. And Andrew Galarno from the Buffalo News, it seemed to strike a chord with him. And he wrote a really sweet piece on it. And it got picked up by just...
Yeah, it first got picked up by First We Feast, and then it got picked up by BuzzFeed, and then back to Elite Daily and a few other places.
That's pretty awesome.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's crazy and awesome.
Yeah, we appreciated it.
Yeah.
It was a solid
what it
15
was.
minutes of fame.
Yeah.
We had some people who were oh, I respected them for their organic stuff. It's interesting that they're doing this. And it's well, luckily we plan on being around for a really long time, and this is just a blip in our
This isn't a new business model.
yeah,
that
no,
you're-
it's
Only Cheeto bagels from now on.
right. It's Cheetos on top of a long ferment sourdough bagel incorporating grain from central New York, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That's the best part about it, is because Andrew Galarno was like, is it still local if you get your Cheetos from the corner store? Which is exactly the whole point, which is this is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we ate during startup was stuff from next door. There's a corner store, and the owner, Frank, has been the sweetest to us. He's never let us pay for coffee, and he just we bring him granola, and he brings us beers, and we have this rapport. So that's where we get the Cheetos. That's where we get our hot fries and our Skittles. So
Zebra cakes.
it only seemed fitting that what became famous was our 10-year-old neighbor and Frank's contribution to our startup.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I heard about, going to the start of BreadHive. Now, wasn't there a East Side type of bread
Yes.
thing? Okay.
In, I would say, about 2009, some folks who are not any of us started kind of an underground baking project.
Okay,
Out
'cause
of
I heard it was underground, and I was I was asking people. I was like, "Do you know about this thing?"
Yeah, so they built a wood-fired earth oven in a friend's backyard on the east side,
Okay.
and started just running a bread share. And they ran a bread share, and they ran donation-based monthly baking workshops.
Okay.
And so I came onto the project in 2010. I went to I just moved to Buffalo 6 months before, went to a baking workshop. It was in this gorgeous garden on this summer's day. chopping wood and baking bread, and I was like, this is the jam. I just moved here from Manhattan, and I was like, this is where I want to be.
So much nature.
It's like nature and the city at the same time. And so they're like, well, we're looking for more people to bake. And so I came on as a baker, and
did you have like a previous experience with baking, or?
I had made like a loaf of bread.
Okay.
And some solid muffins.
Fair enough.
And it was really a lot of trial by error and reading and collaboration and experimenting. And then the project grew, and eventually the original founders left. And Allison came on board, and Emily came on board, and now like several years had passed, and it had evolved to a lot of different levels. I mean, we got a lot more serious about it, and we were still continuing workshops and continuing the share program, and it had gained so much traction. And we were all working in different sectors. And at one point we decided that we had certain dissatisfactions in like kind of the way our careers respectively were going, and really wanted something that we could sink our teeth into that was literally
good one.
that was meaningful, and that we felt ownership of, that we felt like we could really own our labor.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's quit our jobs and let's do this. Let's open a full-time professional bakery.
God bless you. That's
And that was about,
super ballsy.
I think 2 years ago we came to that realization, and we
Oh,
done did it.
Dark night
On a dark and stormy night.
in a basement of a co-op house.
Yeah, so we started that when Tori came on. It was still in the backyard in the east side. When I came on, she and the people who were involved at that point, I showed up to a bread making workshop, and it was in the basement of the co-op house, but they had just figured out that they wanted to rent a commercial kitchen for the summer and sell at Clinton Bailey Farmers Market. And they were like, you've baked bread before. You seem like you know what you're doing. Do you want to be one of our bakers? And I was like, OMG, I'm so honored. Like, of course. So, I was working some terrible job at that point. So we did that for a summer. And then Emily...
Yeah, I had just moved to Buffalo, and I had this job that I was just not happy with, and I was looking for friends. And so I found them, and I was like, hey, guys, let's hang out on Saturday night. They're like, we got to bake bread. Sorry, like, I can't go out drinking. I got to make bread. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I've got to, like, this is the way I'm going to have to make friends, is I got to hang out with them while they bake bread.
nice.
So I did.
And we were making this bread that was acceptable, but it was also nowhere near the quality of bread that I know we could be making if we had like an oven that was built for bread and a mixer that wasn't good for 10 loaves at a time and things like this, because we were putting in a whole lot of time and effort and money, and we were getting out the same amount of money. We were going at exactly zero.
Yeah.
And just burning up a lot of energy and effort. And we sort of decided that leap would be worth it to do startup right, be able to make actually good bread.
Is there something about like, because we've had bakers and we've had cooks on the podcast like previously, and there's definitely two different mindsets, I think. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Cooks are very, spur of the moment, on the fly, and then obviously the stereotype is like bakers have like set amounts and have to measure everything, and like everything's perfect.
Science.
Like, yeah. Like, is there something about you guys that like, I mean, obviously you've shown with the Cheeto thing that you can and your daily specials that you can flex that creative muscle as well. But like, is there something about the baking process that you guys actually really enjoy?
Our landlord likes to point out that we all have backgrounds in art. And I'm not sure what the significance of that is. But I think there's a lot of room to be creative, also because we're the production shift, but we also own it. So if it's like, I'm not feeling cinnamon raisin this week, it's going to be cinnamon fig, and we're not doing it in loaf pans, we're doing it in boules. Like, it's like, okay, we'll bring that to market, we'll hype it up, like, and like developing new formulas has been really exciting, and like flavor combinations for stuff. We've had, we give ourselves that freedom, and that's how I find that creative outlet.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely beauty in the balance between the two worlds of sort of the more like structured science, where like everything's this empirical study and you have to like control some of the variables so that you can determine what's actually affecting the breads or the bagels, and then you can move forward with those tests. And like having that sort of balance between the science and the creative end is, I don't know, it feeds me in a lot of ways, just because I don't want to operate in one realm or the other.
Yeah.
Like before I had a desk job, and I didn't really enjoy just this process of sitting down at my computer all day and like
I know that pain.
doing that all day. Like I wanted something physical where I could like go in and have this very like real connection with my work, while at the same time like having the ability to go and talk to people and do emails and do all those things. So like that sort of balance, I think, manifests in a lot of ways in our business.
I really liked the nurturing aspect of baking bread. I most recently come from working in the childcare sector, and both bread and bagels is so sensitive to the environment, and you're constantly like looking at it and touching it and being like, what is it you need? What is it you're responding to? What can I do to improve like the conditions for you so that we can yield the best result? And it's really, I think, engaging and exciting. And then when you do pull out that perfect loaf of bread or that perfect bagel, like the hours that went into it previously just becomes so satisfying and so meaningful, because it's not just like this static thing that we do stuff to. It's this like relationship we have with these products, and each time it's this like new experience.
That's awesome.
And it's also like it has to be creative, because we don't have climate control.
Yeah.
We have radiant floor heating, which is sort of the way we have it set up. Is it's just sort of a constant heat, so the temperature will fluctuate. During the summer, we didn't have any AC, so it was like all kinds of temperatures in there. There's the humidity's always different in there. The levain might be acting different. I say levain with an American accent. Sorry, you'll hear it a lot. The levain's acting different from day to day. Maybe they're grinding the rye flour at a different thickness than usual. So there's an element of unpredictability always.
That sounds horrible.
In our shop. No, it's
Exciting.
It's so exciting.
It's kind of great because we got our crash course this summer for sure.
Yeah.
And that stuff you don't see on Instagram is the creative problem solving that comes in.
10 minutes. Let's go, guys. Go.
Shape.
We've been really creative when it comes to the different predicaments we find ourselves in and how to get ourselves out of them.
Yeah, because I mean, you guys
flawlessly.
You guys have only been open for what, like
6 months?
7 months now.
7.
So I mean, there's still a lot of learning. I'm assuming on the go and stuff
Every
like
day.
that. Yeah, it's. I mean, so when you guys decided you wanted to start BreadHive, like, did you just like jump into it? Like, I'm not a risk taker, obviously, but
Neither am I.
But I mean, like, I think that's a big endeavor to take on, because I mean, baking equipment is not cheap. It's known as a relatively low margin like area. Like, I feel like it's tricky.
Something that you were talking earlier about asking us what we each bring to the table, and the first thing I thought of, which I think is relevant, is from my perspective at least, like, Allison is extraordinarily creative and willing to just try it and just do it. And Emily is crazy confident and extremely ambitious. She's like, of course we're going to be wildly successful. How else could this ever turn out? And I am like deathly afraid of risk and like foresee every potential catastrophe, which I think brings its own like element of security in the situation. And so I think all of those coming together, like, made some good synergy.
If we didn't have Tori on board, Emily and I would have confidently jumped off of a couple cliffs. Like, yay!
Guys, stop right now.
Here goes
She's like,
her
do we have
flying.
insurance for this? And I was like,
I
I
don't
don't know.
I was like, oh, right. Why don't you hook that up?
I guess workers' comp's important.
Should we do that? Yeah.
That's awesome. But I mean.
But yeah, I mean, we all quit our jobs. Emily quit first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was done. I was done with what I was doing.
So you're ready to go right in.
Yeah, but I was also really excited about starting worker co-ops. I mean, because our business is structured as a 5A, which is unique because in New York State, we can actually incorporate as a worker cooperative, which essentially just means that the workers own the business.
Yeah.
And as we grow and expand and we bring on new employees, they will have a path to ownership in their own right. And then once that is accepted by the current ownership, then they create an equal stake. And so that's a priority in our business, is because we believe in a new model of the way that businesses can and should operate in its local and community and building an economy that's sustainable for the future.
Yeah.
And so the reason I quit my job first, in a lot of ways too, is there was a lot of work to be done on a legal aspect and also in finding investors. We have 45 investors in our business.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, which is really cool because the guy, Neil, that we were talking about earlier, who eats a loaf of BreadHive bread every
Shout
single
out
day.
to Neil. Shout out to Steve. One person will get that.
He's an investor in the business, and so is one of the, like, a very large lawyer, this lawyer in town that's very well known and has a huge firm and is actually in Larkinville, is a huge investor and just signed up without even knowing us.
Wow.
And so the range of investors that we had is amazing, but they also don't get ownership in the business, which is really unique as well.
Yeah.
And so these people are literally giving us their money and saying, like, we believe in what you're doing and we think it's really cool, and we don't want any control. We just want a $15 check at the end of the year,
Per
every
share.
year.
Yeah.
Per share for the life of the business, and that's it.
Wow.
And we try to include them in any way that we can, but like that sort of trust and that sort of support that we were afforded was also, it took a lot of time to figure out how to do that and how to find the people and
Well, I
do
think,
it legally.
And these people signed on without having tasted our bread because we didn't have a bakery yet.
When we
That's so
had
true.
our grand opening, investors came up to us and were like, "Oh, I'm so glad your bread tastes good." I was so worried, and it's like, dude, you just gave me thousands of dollars.
And you didn't really have confidence that we could bake. Like, that's
was there a
kind
point
of
when
awesome.
like your first like loaf came out and you're like a sigh of relief, like,
No.
okay, we can sell this?
Okay, no, because I'll tell the story. So we had this Buffalo Spree cover.
Yeah. By the way, to start with, like,
Yeah.
you guys had a shitload of coverage before you even
So
opened.
here was our publicity strategy because we were getting requests for interviews like for quite some time, and we were like, we don't know when we're going to open. We were in this crazy build out. We were pulling our hair out.
we didn't have
running-
that much money. And
running
we were
through-
doing it with friends.
What
we
was
were sanding walls.
It was freezing. There wasn't heat in there. We had put what was considered our savings into this business, and we're just scraping by, like, I don't know, I want to say like 6 months to a year longer than we thought we might.
That's a very common story.
So yeah, oh for sure. And we were starting it without debt, thank God.
Yeah.
Because of these investors. Which is an uncommon story.
Yeah.
But so we had all these requests for publicity along the way. And our strategy was, we don't want to flood, we don't want to be like, BreadHive's opening eventually. We wanted to hold everybody off until we had more or less an opening date.
Yeah.
So, but we knew the Spree story was, we heard they were going to
Like
do.
by the way, a cover story.
Well,
But we didn't know.
We didn't know.
No.
Our
This is
mailman
the story.
told us. Listen to the
Yeah,
story.
this is the good
Oh,
story.
okay. So they're like, we want to do a little thing in the context of a larger piece. We want to do like a little sidebar on y'all. We're like, cool, great. So we do an interview, and they're like, we want to send a photographer out, and we're like, oh my god, we got a picture in it, yay! So they were like, we need you to make bread. So we hustled to get everything to the point where we could produce a couple loaves of bread. That was the first bread we pulled out of the oven. We picked the 3 least unacceptable looking loaves. They looked fine. They were fine.
You look good.
I have these standards, right? So it was just like, okay, let's pick 3 that won't look terrible in this sidebar buried in the middle of the Buffalo Spree. Let's put
Find
on
a wall that's complete.
We
yeah.
hadn't
Let's
finished our build out.
let's put on mascara. I'd been up since 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
So and then the issue comes out. Our mailman sends us.
We'd all gone out drinking the night before, and I got up the next morning, and I got on Facebook, and I got a message on Facebook
From our
BreadHive account, and I look at it. It's from our mailman Frank that we had met, and it said, "You guys are the cover girls. Congratulations! I'm delivering your face all over town." And I was just like, "What?"
It said
what?
it actually said motherfucking cover girls. Like what? And it wasn't on newsstands yet. It was only to subscribers. So we were like, we were hitting like Rite Aids trying to find a copy. We didn't know what they'd said about us. Like we didn't know whether they were like talking smack or what.
Ideally,
like,
if you're a cover person, it's probably a positive article.
I
Well,
looked
you
up
know.
Tori at the time, and so I like raced downstairs, broke into her apartment because I had a key, And Tori's like still in
I'm
bed.
passed out. Everybody's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, girl, use your inside voice.
I was like, "But the cover!" And she flipped. It was unbelievable that whole day.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to read it for like 3 days, and then we had, I believe the photographer Casey Kratt sent us a picture that he took of the cover that we then threw all over the internet, and we're like, "Yay! We got this! It's probably a good thing! Yay!" And then we're like, "We need an opening date now." We said it,
And
that was
the rest is history.
Somehow opened April 1st.
That's kind of insane. Like, I don't think that is a very common path of having somebody promote it so heavily before you guys even had a product on
it's
the street.
amazing because they had the release party and and so we had heard that there was a release party, but we didn't know that we got the cover, and then we found out we had the cover.
We heard about the release party after the release party.
Yeah.
And after we heard about the cover, so we were like, "Oh, okay,
That's nice.
It was so confusing.
And then Tori went on.
Elizabeth Licata invited us on a segment on TV. We went on with her, and it was great. And like the I don't think we were at all prepared for just the publicity rollout from the beginning. Like, we didn't have any time to to have like the soft opening.
Yeah.
It was just open, like shot out of a
You
cannon.
better be in stores tomorrow.
Yeah.
We had really hoped, or I don't know about these guys, I had hoped that we would have, or I had assumed that we would have a couple months to a couple years, I guess, where we were like beating the bushes, trying to get our name out, trying to get in stores, flying under the radar, figuring our stuff out in sort of a soft opening context. No, it was from day one. We were hyped. So it's like, okay, great, we can't make any mistakes. At least publicly.
And we
haven't. And we haven't made any, which is amazing. Good job,
flawless.
team.
It's been so flawless.
Without flaws.
No stress.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it's been really exciting though to see. I like to think of myself as somebody who has somewhat of a pulse on like the food scene, and like everyone was super pumped about you guys opening, and it was really exciting to see people getting behind that, and it seems like. I mean, I know you guys are in like even like a couple restaurants and things like that.
Yeah.
Now. Like, you know,
that's going to be the fun part about this winter is.
Yeah, we've been exploring a lot of contracts with some pretty big restaurants. I mean, restaurants in town. We're really excited. Tori's going to be going to, Born to be a Chef on Thursday with Blue Monk. We're going to be co-branding a piece that Tony's doing. We are in Buffalo proper. They actually contacted us before they even opened
and
because they wanted.
Died. I like fell on the floor. I was like, what?
We were so excited we got to go in even before it was open.
Yeah.
She's like, this bloody sand thing called. I was like, oh god, and fainted.
and
Hi,
Ed,
guys.
Ed will treat your bread right. He's got some skills.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've seen that for sure.
I went in there the first time not intending to eat my own bread, and I had to get it because like the cured melon tartine looked so good.
Yeah,
and it was. So
yeah,
I've bought my own bread off their menu a bunch of times.
Was that like even like on your radar of like doing like restaurant styles, or were you more focused?
Oh yeah. I mean, we
so the way that we saw that our bread going is we thought that primarily our sales would go wholesale, like 75% and then 25% retail. But because we opened in the summer, Bidwell sort of blew us up.
Yeah.
And so we were like 50-50. And so that didn't allow us to really expand our wholesale operation as much, which is what the winter is going to allow for.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting because I've been able to make cold calls to restaurants, but also accept a lot of the inquiries that are coming in and have a better sense of some of the deliveries, just like the boring stuff, the coordination,
yes.
Just getting the product into their stores so that they can figure out what to do with it and make it pretty. So.
Yeah. It seems like you've done a pretty good job of having like some different neighborhoods that have it too. I mean, I live out in Cheektowaga, and Farmers and Artisans is like 5 minutes from my house, and they're always pretty stocked and everything. So it's exciting to see you guys.
They've been a huge support to us.
Yeah, I think when we were first starting out, people kept asking us, like, have you ever worked in a commercial kitchen? Like, what's your experience? Like, that was a lot of the investors' questions. So Allison and I were like, we better go find some experience so we can tell people. So we're like, yes, we've worked at a place for 20 hours and we received this kind of training.
It's like, yeah, we sure did make a lot of bread in the backyard.
So we called up Farmers and Artisans, and they were like, of course, come on down. And so Allison and I went for a couple days, and we baked out of this gorgeous oven with Jody, their head baker, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
We had a great time, and that's actually the story of how we got our oven.
Oh, really?
Because we found out that they were moving locations, and we were like, oh, are you selling your oven? And they were like, yeah, actually. So, like, before we had a space, before we knew anything, we bought this giant triple-deck Italian-built steam-injected oven that was like the oven of our dreams. We're like, we're gonna figure out where to put this. In the meantime.
Oh my god, we got it for a price that we really liked on the condition that we moved it ASAP. So, and they were like, yeah, it's modular, it just comes apart. We're like, great. So we show up with like a screwdriver and 2 dudes, one of which is Neil. Shout outs to Neil. And the other one of which is my husband, who has helped us with all of the things that require tools. So thank you, Kevin, who's not listening to this. There's no way he's going to sit through an hour of me talking that he isn't present for. So we roll up to Farmers and Artisans, and it is not as simple as we thought.
It's essentially 12 hours.
It's essentially 12 hours.
Trying to figure out what the fuck
a couple
to do.
trips to the hardware store, and the thing is stuffed with rock wool insulation, which is, if you know, it's like a extremely antique, scratchy insulation. So we had to go buy face masks. Like, it was a good thing they were moving out of there, because that place would not have been food grade after all that stuff flew all over. It's a hot mess. And then we stored it in a garage on Linwood behind a house that my husband's boss, who is a contractor in the field of historic preservation, shout outs to Vince, was working on. So it was like this disassembled, beautiful oven in pieces with bits duct taped to itself, because that's what we could manage that day.
Wow.
We didn't really document how we took it apart.
Oh,
so
this
then,
sounds great.
like
We took one photo that day.
yeah, thank God. And then, like, how long was it before we put it back together?
At least 8 months.
Long
before
enough
we put it back
long
together.
enough to forget everything relevant. So then we had to like do this puzzle, this extremely expensive, heavy puzzle.
So we go way back with Farmers and Artisans is the end of that story.
I mean, we're also professionals.
We were solid from then on. They were like, oh yeah, we'll carry your bread. You got rid of that oven.
Well, and then the other piece of it was one of their founders, Dave, passed away, I guess a couple years back now, and when we used to do Fancy and Delicious, the underground bread thing, when we couldn't make our flour order minimums, we would order through them, and he was always super awesome to talk shop with, even though we were this little, weird podunk thing. He would spend time just talking bread with us, and was super, super helpful in helping us, just sort of figure out our way. And the multigrain bread that we make, our 100% organic multigrain, is actually his formula. So, and he was one of the pioneers of the local food movement here in Western New York. He was pretty seminal in the Elmwood Bidwell Market, for example, and a bunch of other stuff. So we've been able to carry that forward, which has also been pretty key with our relationship with Farmers and Artisans, is being able to keep alive a bread that they love and a lot of their customers love, and that was representative of this man who did, a lot of the work in paving the way for us. So it was really nice to be able to do that, and that's why it's called David's Multigrain.
Yeah.
And the cool part is they also gave us a little piece of their starter that he had started, and we added it to our starter.
That's awesome.
So there's definitely a huge piece of Farmers and Artisans in what we do.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we've really enjoyed being able to build relationships like that. It's come a lot easier than I ever thought, because I'm super awkward in how I think of myself. I was like, I don't friggin' talk to people. But we've been able to forge some really deep connections with other local food producers, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think like you guys came onto the scene at a really good time, because this year has been as the most insane year for the Buffalo's food scene that I can remember. 2014 will go in the history books as restaurants that opened and businesses that opened and stuff like that.
And BreadHive opened in 2014.
Obviously, yeah.
So clearly.
I think that's been the really cool thing, is that when we opened and we talked about going wholesale, we had like looked at the market and we're looking at a lot of restaurants and stores that were kind of like Buffalo institutions, and we're trying to like figure out how to market ourselves and make ourselves look appealing compared to like who they were already using. But what we didn't realize was that in the 7 months we've been open, you know, so many new places have opened and so many like innovative and creative things are happening, and these chefs are just calling us being like, I want to collaborate and do something really unique and really cool with you guys. Like, let's meet and brainstorm.
That's awesome.
And that has been like, I thought we were just going to be cranking out thousands of rolls, but we're doing such cool work with, you know, these big up and coming restaurants and up and coming chefs, and it's cool to be part of this local food movement.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody like myself, like that's what I want. I want people. I mean, I think our restaurant scene, our food scene in general, has gotten to that point where everyone wants to be collaborative. Like, there's very little. I mean, there still is competition and things like that, but everyone's open to talking with everybody and raising the bar as a group instead of, you know, trying to fight everyone for each last dollar, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, like we said, like have been getting pretty popular over the last like 6 months. I mean, you guys are, I think, have built a really good brand. I think one of the things I love most is that you guys are at a scale where if you want to try something, like you guys can just kind of try it. Like this summer, I think me and my wife might have had like every special that was available. You guys did? I mean, do you guys, like, is that something that you want to keep in touch, that you want to stay a certain size so that you can do these types of things? Like, is there the fear that, you know, I mean, it's a good fear that you guys, you know, get too busy or have too many orders. Like, do you try to ration, like, what you guys put out?
Not yet.
I mean, personally, I feel like we're structured in a way that will always allow us to embody that spirit that we've tried to sort of encapsulate in our first 7 months, which is that we can be super nimble in our marketplace, but also in the stuff that we're producing, because we own the business and because we want the people that come on board to also own the business with us. And so it feels collaborative internally as well as externally. And I think that's a lot of, like, I think Allison said it in the Andrew Glarno article about the Cheeto bagel. It's like, well, we own the business, so of course we could just do it. And then we could just sell it out of a retail window because, you know, we have that.
Yeah.
And so I think that will never stop happening in BreadHive, or I don't think any of us want it to.
Yeah, I think because there's no division between owners, management, and production, like, we make decisions, like, in a moment. Like, we'll be thinking about a special bread. I'll go to Gershier's and be like, hey, guys, they have sliced calamari. Want to put these in bread? Yes, done. Great, we have a new bread. It gets traction. We keep doing it. And I think even as we grow, one of the things that's kind of been a foundation of how we operate is that we really trust each other to either make decisions together or make a decision that will reflect well in the business and the product and our brand. So that I think we're going to keep maintaining that creativity and that innovation, because we all kind of know what we're anchored in, what we're rooted in, and we all like trust each other's taste and judgment.
Nice. Has there been any, I don't want to say failures, but has there been any things that you guys have tried that were just like
a bad idea?
Why did we think this was going to work?
Yeah, and then we don't sell them.
Well, yeah. So nobody would know that this happened, but I'm just curious for myself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, occasionally it's more like we've never done a special that's been terrible. It's more like
It doesn't usually happen that often. Like,
No?
we don't actually make... Oh, no, Tori's got one.
I really tried to make coconut curry granola happen.
Oh.
And it just wasn't going to happen. And I had to come to terms with that. And it was
Did you really try really hard?
Oh, hell yeah.
Coconut curry granola.
You know, we wanted to think outside the box. We also really tried to make like a bourbon granola happen. That one I still have hope for. We just need more time in the test kitchen.
We need real bourbon in it too.
Aim high. Fall among the stars.
But really more on the bread end. If we're sending something out to a store or market, it's gonna, the experimentation is like adding something to our sourdough, which is a bomb-proof formula on purpose.
Yeah.
One time we added sugar instead of salt to our sourdough.
Ooh.
That was not bomb-proof.
I taste every batch of dough, and that's how I found out that there was sugar in that one. And I
remember looking at Allison as she like walked over to the shelf to see if she could fix it. She was just like looking at every ingredient we had. She looked back and she was like, I can't do it, guys.
I was
can't
like,
fix this
I was
one.
like, what about, like, I looked at all of our add-ins. I looked at our, like, granola crap shelf, and I was like, what about apricot sweet sourdough? And then I was like, no, this one's defeated me. And we threw out, like, 50 pounds of sugar sourdough.
Yeah,
I couldn't do
the
it.
garbage
But,
people were not happy with us.
oh,
that day.
they hate us. I'm really...
We try to give them bagels because we're just like, we're really sorry. There's some weird stuff in our garbage.
I bring them bagels, and they're like, you know about that? I'm like, yep. so now when they come, I just close the door and pretend like we're not there. Like, okay, if they're
the way to do
if
it.
any of
Love
our
them.
if any of our garbage people are listening to this podcast, we're sincerely sorry, and we'll try to do better.
We're
But it might not.
remediating the situation.
We might not be able to fix the situation for
I'd
a
be
couple more
honored
months because we're
Your
busy.
garbage people listen to this podcast.
Well, I don't know.
That's
But
I mean,
but yeah, I mean,
that's kind of what happens.
test batches, like, oh boy, yeah, they just no one sees them.
Have you guys gotten to the point where you? So we've talked to like other like chefs and things where they go home and their mind is still always thinking about food or like new ideas. Like, how often are you guys still like? Is bread pretty much on your mind most of the day, or are you able to like leave it at the bakery or?
We each get one day off a week where, like, you can't contact them, you can't call them in. There's just, like, there's
So
nothing.
you cut off.
Cut off. And we try to do that as much as possible. But ultimately, like, there's days where we come in, it's like, guys, I had a work dream last night. And we're all like, oh, that's the worst. Because we all have them. We all know what it feels like, where it's just like you go to sleep and for 6 hours, you're just like thinking about work. Who the fuck gets 12 hours?
Gets 12 hours of sleep.
And you wake
Bastard
up and you have to
sense.
like come in and just keep going. And yeah.
When we first opened, we were pulling like epically long days, like 12 to 14-hour days, and we'd be shaping bagels until our arms fell off. And it was the kind of thing where you like get home at midnight and you got to be back at 6 a.m. And
We had 0 days off at that point.
we had
'cause
0
we're
days
crazy.
off at that point. And I would have these dreams all the time where I would just be shaping bagels all night. And I'd be like, I just shaped bagels for like 5.5 hours, and I shaped bagels all night, come back in and shape some more. And it was
And it was
rough.
it was extra great because going from startup mode of like, which is a lot of not baking bread, it's a lot of doing other work and meeting with investors and designing promo stuff, graphic design and stuff, to physically baking bread. Like, our joints, like, our muscles took a minute to build up, so our joints were under a lot of stress, and like both Tori and like, I got wrist problems for like a minute there, and it was like,
One day I shaped 400 bagels while they had to do other things because their wrists were out.
I was like, I can't do it. I'm gonna destroy because I had wrist problems from Fancy and Delicious when I pushed myself too hard and I couldn't use my right arm all summer. And I'm like, I'm not doing this year.
Yeah.
Because y'all need me. Like, I need to sit this one out.
We have a really good relationship with an acupuncturist. Shout out.
Shout out to Craig.
Shout out to
So many
Craig.
shout-outs in this episode. I fucking love it.
It takes a frickin' village.
Buffalo Alternative Therapies for all of your aches and pains.
Oh my god.
Seriously.
Sliding scale model, $15. Get your shit fixed.
I'm gonna have
It's
to
true.
send my wife to that.
Oh,
she's
it's
amazing.
so
good.
it's so close to where she works too, because it's close to us.
Niagara and Lafayette.
Yeah. She's literally across the street from me.
Yeah.
Shouts out to
You
Allie.
see her. It's great.
It's amazing how many things we've been able to trade for bread and bagels too, in this whole process.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
That sounds amazing.
It's
Just
I mean,
bartering.
We have office space at Coalition for Economic,
Concerned Ecumenical
Ministries. Sorry. CEM on Lafayette, and we trade them bagels and bread for office space. And it's amazing.
and they are the sweetest people ever.
They're
Yeah,
wonderful.
We love them.
Sorry, that's why there's so many shout outs, is because we get so much
Yeah.
stuff for bread and bagels.
Well, and that's what it takes to start a business without any debt is
The way you guys have built it.
taking
yeah.
2 years to build a network, like among other things.
We're super scrappy.
But I think that's also maybe why you guys had such a big push in the beginning, or why you guys were on the radar of a lot of people, is because everyone was sharing this thing that was happening.
We spent about 2 years, I want to say, where the majority of what we talked about with our friends, family, loved ones, random acquaintances, people we talked to while we were drunk, was BreadHive. And we could pitch in our sleep. Like,
can't tell how many coffee dates I went on where it's just like just BreadHive.
Serial
Coffee
dater.
whore.
I was a serial dater of just like, can you give me money or can you give me something that will help this business get off the ground?
Emily's superpower. We talk about how we all have superpowers because we have a lot of time in the bakery together to psychoanalyze ourselves and others.
Yeah, you guys spend a lot of time together. Probably.
So much.
Oh well, so
Yep.
so I'll tell you about Emily's superpower, and then I'll tell you another thing. Emily's superpower, one of them, is that she can instantly see the potential gain in any relationship, not in like a cynical way, but in a way where she sees the value inherent in a situation and figures out how to use it to everyone's mutual advantage. That's amazing. And the other thing is that people ask us, because we were BFFs first, we were baking together all the time, but it was on a part-time basis. And people were like, so are you guys best friends? Do you hang out all the time? And I'm always like, no. But it's not like a we hate each other thing, but it's turned into something that's not friendship. It's like, it's a really, it's a partnership. So we're not just like, yeah, we kick it and talk about, whatever. We do that, but we also run a business. So it's not strictly friends anymore. It doesn't feel like friends. It feels like something that's like sort of between a friend, business partner, and life partner.
I got married 6 months before BreadHive opened, and I tell people, like, I took on 3 spouses that year. Like, between the level of, like, financial investment decision-making power and, like, deep conversations about how we feel about things.
Oh my God.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to have those strong bonds if you're going to be around each other 14 hours a day for 6 months.
And longer.
Yeah, and longer. Yeah.
We're hopefully having a future.
So,
Well.
so I guess, so recently you guys just announced that you had your first employee, right?
Shout outs to
Shout out,
Alex.
Yeah.
I kind of set that up. It seems like you guys are on the path of expanding and things like that.
And
like, are you excited about? Do you feel confident in having people who aren't the 3 of you making something?
Yes, that was always our intention, and I think that's what I thought of when you asked about whether we were trying to limit ourselves. So one of the goals of a worker co-op is to create more awesome jobs. So that has always been our intention, is to grow this thing enough to employ as many people as feasible, that we trust and can bring on as owners and can add value. There are worker co-ops that employ hundreds and hundreds of people. You can still have a traditional management structure and still be worker owned. And we definitely want to create as much quality employment in this town as possible, whichever way we end up doing that. So we are very excited to have been able to bring someone on, starting part-time as the first step along that way. And it's like, it's freed up Emily to do more sales calls. It's freed up Tori to do more sort of essential stuff that otherwise does not happen. I get someone else in the bakery who has a long list of accomplishments in the baking world.
Nice.
And it's been really nice.
Yeah. I think we get that question a lot, actually, of just like, oh, so hired a man.
Oh yeah, it's a dude.
Angle, but I understand that.
No more ladies and gals. There's an Alex now.
But I think that's something that, like, we always knew that we sort of branded ourselves as the 3 of us, but BreadHive is something that I think all of us want, is something bigger. And it's something that we want, a living wage for ourselves, and we also want living wage for other people. We want ownership for ourselves, and we want ownership for other people.
Yeah.
This is something that it's going to take time, obviously. It's going to take a lot of time to build that trust and to marry our next employee and and have them become an owner also, because it is, like Tori said, a marriage in a lot of ways, in terms of financial risk and dedication. So, I mean, we're on that path, and we want to continue to sort of display that in the way that we're growing and expanding our business.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can wrap it up, but what are your goals going forward? Do you guys, I'm assuming everything's growing so fast and kind of crazy that you kind of want to go at it while the iron's still hot and while everyone's kind of talking about yourself. But are you I mean, what do you see for like the next like year or so? Like, what are you going to try to do?
The way we kind of set up our business, we have kind of a foothold in a lot of different sectors. We do wholesale, we do retail, we do subscription programs. We sell, bagels and cream cheese out of the window. And I think we kind of want to expand on all fronts and get deeper into wholesale, get deeper into retail, get deeper into prepared foods. And we're starting to kind of pave that way. This winter, we're going to be doing a series of brunches at Hydraulic Hearth. We're going to be taking over...
Right underneath us right now.
Right underneath us right now.
Sitting on it.
We're taking over the restaurant. We're taking over the menu. We're going to make wood-fired bagels and do these like really epic bagel sandwiches. We're going to be paired with some incredible cocktails out of their bar. Shout out Chris Gilmet, who is an incredible cocktail artist working for them. And that'll be every Saturday from November 29th into April. We're going to have musical accompaniment. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so that will be kind of our first venture into, cafe prepared foods, like seeing what that road is like.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely transparent, I think 5-year plan, we want to have a retail location.
Yeah.
And we want to be in all the, all the restaurants and all the cafes in town as a wholesale supplier. We want to expand both arenas in ways that make sense for us in the time that we have offered. And I think people are going to come to us with new gifts and talents, and we're going to see how they fit into the business. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't think that that's a surprise to anyone to see a bakery sort of go in those directions.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going into this with a blueprint. Like, we had enough time during the, hellish period of startup to just thoroughly think about how we wanted to do everything and why. And we had... we just did an interview. It was interesting to look back. One of the questions was, what was the best advice you've ever gotten? And it got us thinking about the worst advice we've ever got, which is, don't start a business in Buffalo.
Do it with your friends.
Don't do it with 3 people. Don't do it with bread. You'll never make money selling bread. Don't do bread wholesale.
Never do bread wholesale. You'll never sell bread to grocery stores and make sense. Don't do it as a worker co-op.
Complicated.
Wow.
All of these things were just terrible advice.
Well, it's just a lot of things,
I mean,
no, it's somebody who...
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's somebody who assumes that because it hasn't been done, it can't be done.
Right.
And I think a lot of people in Buffalo have shown that, if you're passionate about something, if you do a good product, that, people in Buffalo are excited about.
Well,
good new
and
things.
it might not have been done here, or it might not have been done recently. There was a worker cooperative bakery in Buffalo that ran for about 20 years, East West. Actually, shout out to Bill Nowak. He was one of their bakers, and he's one of our investors now. And we sat down with a couple of their members and went over sort of what they would advise us on. So, and there's obviously plenty of businesses that have been started by friends and 3 women and wholesale bakeries and all of these things.
Yeah.
It's just, we might not have seen it all combined here. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain point at which it becomes sort of a silly idea. And that was when we were planning on doing it in the bottom floor of my house. That was a dumb idea. And we dropped that part. And that was smart. I have a big house, but it's made out of wood. And really all of our stuff needs to be on a concrete floor in a commercial storefront, which it is now. Because we're geniuses.
You guys found a good spot. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming over and talking. You guys, I've really killed it. I was super excited like everyone else when I saw the Buffalo Rising article, and I kind of followed along. And I was super pumped when I had your bread news. It was fucking awesome. So you guys keep doing a great job. And again, thank you guys for talking.
Yeah, and just, I guess, a parting shot is that the bread we're making now is,
The best?
It's what? No. It's like a shadow of the bread we're gonna make in the future. Such plans, man. Such plans. They're all secret.
I'm very excited. Thank you guys again.